The village in it with a map and a plan. No place too tiny for this determined man. Crossing the counties one by one, he'll see in every English corner a bit of history.
Hello everyone, welcome to Friday's episode, the fifth and final part of this huge walk. I've been going for just over 8 hours and I've still got at least another hour to go around this last parish. My feet are about to divorce me. I'm absolutely jiggered. I'll tell you that for free. However, this one should be the quickest one of the 5, to be fair, because after we've been through the town centre, it's then a huge residential area, and that's not really got all that much, to be honest with you, so we can get through it quite quick. This is Chelmsley Wood. Chelmsley Wood, Chelman's wooded enclosure. Wrapping up this incredible walk around the first 5 parishes of Solihull, today we hit Chelmsley Wood, where the end of the route is in sight. Chelmsley Wood is sometimes referred to as either the Wood or simply Chelmsley. It's a town which is sandwiched between Fordbridge to the west and the A452 and the M6 to the east. To the immediate south is Birmingham Airport, and the National Exhibition Centre isn't too far away either. Chelmsley Wood is also quite close to the Warwickshire villages of Water Orton and Coleshill, and was itself once part of that county. It takes its name from the ancient Chelmsley Wood, a large group of trees that's now virtually vanished, replaced with a massive council estate. There are a couple of fragments that do remain, but for the most part, this once leafy area, which formed part of the Forest of Arden, is lost under its urban sprawl. Chelmsley Wood has only existed in its current form since 1966, making this the youngest of the parishes we've visited so far in Solihull. 66 was the year that Birmingham City Council compulsorily purchased the ancient woodland and built the estate, and they meant business. It consisted of a huge number of dwellings, 15,590 in fact. As a council estate, it was designed to rehouse families on the council house waiting list. Fordbridge, which we covered yesterday, is often referred to as part of Chelmsley Wood, even though it's its own parish. I purposely avoided mentioning that yesterday, knowing this was coming up. All of a sudden, some of what we encountered there will make sense here. Let's finish this huge walk, folks. So then, this is Chelmsley Wood, and it's only been around since the mid-1960s. It's younger than Kingshurst by at least 10 years. Even though we're in Solihull, it was all built by Birmingham City Council, a process that began in 1966 and wasn't completed until the early 1970s. This is Meriden Park. It takes its name from the former Warwickshire district that Chelmsley Wood used to be within. When Chelmsley Wood was built between 1966 and 1970, it was originally within the boundaries of Warwickshire, as were all of the other ones we've visited so far in Solihull. Local government reorganisation in 1974 transferred the town to the new Solihull Metropolitan Borough, though responsibility for the housing remained with Birmingham until September 1980. Meriden Park is the point at which the Kingshurst Brook and the River Cole meet each other, as we discussed briefly yesterday. The park was created along the shallow valley of the Kingshurst Brook in the early 1970s to serve the development of Chelmsley Wood with a recreational space. It features a large natural lake, a natural woodland, a children's play area, a skate park and a football pitch. It also hosts a number of community events throughout the year. In 2017, the local council began restoring a disused boating lake in Meriden Park, which had silted up and stagnated. A second phase of restoration on the brook was undertaken in 2021 to further improve the stream and create diverse habitats. The work was commissioned by the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust and aimed to improve water quality, biodiversity and natural flood management. The park now features a wetland and the natural reinstated course of the river channel as part of that restoration project. The play area is alternatively known as Meriden Adventure Playground, and it's run by an independent charity. It's one of the leading adventure play facilities in the country. On one edge of the park is a statue simply titled Chelmand. The name Chelmsley is of considerable antiquity. It indicates a settlement of Saxon origin and means Chelmond's enclosure. Chelmond would likely have been the Saxon landowner around here, long before any council estates were built. He lent his name to the ancient woodland which Chelmsley Wood is built on. The word Chelmond itself comes from the Old English cheel, which means keel, as in the thing you find on a ship. Mund means protection. In addition to this, Chelmond Crescent is the name of a road which passes by the police station in the town centre. Okay, let's hop over the road then, because opposite Meriden Park and opposite that statue, there's a couple of buildings which we'll cover now, but they'll become more important a little bit later. There you can see the St Andrew's Centre, which is the building on the left-hand side, and then you've got this building with a curious roof just there. Let's check out what these are. Let's head towards the town centre next. In doing so, we have to pass two landmarks on the way, both opposite Meriden Park. This one is the St Andrew's Centre. From what I can gather, and it wasn't totally clear, this was the location of Chelmsley Wood's church until very recently. It was a local ecumenical partnership church serving both Methodists and Anglicans. However, now it's moved. From its former site, here off Pike Drive, it now occupies a shiny new building in Chelmond's Cross Village, and it's linked with Bishop Wilson Church School there. We'll see that later. The building here, now termed the St Andrew's Centre, is still in use and is primarily used as a boxing gym. On the religious theme, here next door is the Chelmsley Wood Seventh-day Adventist Church, or SDA for short. We don't see a lot of these. The Seventh-day Adventist Church has a history rooted in the broader Adventist movement, which began in North America in the 19th century. While there's no specific information about this exact church, it likely evolved from local Adventist congregations. Given Chelmsley Wood's location within part of the Forest of Arden, that might have influenced the church's development and outreach efforts, given its connection to the area's history. Okay, here we go then into the town centre. Now, this was built obviously in the 1960s, and for the most part it was typical 1960s until a few years ago, and then it was changed dramatically. You'll see what I mean in a moment. So here we are in the town centre, which in the grand scheme of things is relatively small. It's a roughly square-shaped area that contains 90% of the town's facilities and shops. Such was the scale of the operation to build the massive urban area of Chelmsley Wood, a town centre simply had to be developed for the people that would live here. An independent development company was hired to design, finance and build this town centre, which was officially opened by Queen Elizabeth II in 1971. 40,000 people, the approximate population of Chelmsley Wood by that time, turned out for the royal visit. Large crowds gathered along Bosworth Drive and the precinct itself to watch as the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh toured the centre. They unveiled a commemorative plaque which is still here on the clock tower in Greenwood Square. The shopping complex cost around £3.3 million to complete and provided an essential focal point for everyone. This was, at the time, the largest housing development in Europe after all. The main shopping centre had already been open for a year before that royal visit. It opened on the 7th of April 1970. So too did Chelmsley Wood Library, built at a cost of £240,000. The town centre was classic 1970s architecture, brutalist and unforgiving. It wasn't built to last, it was built to serve a purpose, and it did that very well. It was originally designed with a focus on separating pedestrians and cars. The town centre featured covered shopping and a variety of commercial spaces. Shopping was to be accessible from one level and undercover so that shoppers were protected from the elements. There were 70 shop units, 6 major stores, a 4-storey office block and 2 pubs. Speaking of pubs, in the early days there was no local pub at all, and the nearest one could only be reached by embarking on a 5-mile bus journey. Currently, the entire Chelmsley Wood area is undergoing the biggest redevelopment project in its history, and we've already seen a few results of that process in Fordbridge. Chelmsley Wood Shopping Centre has undergone extensive refurbishment since it opened, with a new Asda supermarket serving as the anchor store here since June 2009. Okay, so that's a brief trip through Chelmsley Wood town centre. There's more to it than that, but to be honest with you, I really don't have the time to put it all on the map right now. You can probably appreciate that if you've watched since Monday. Anyway, let's move on. Overlooking the town centre, you can see there are two tower blocks. One there and one there. Now those two are by no means the only two here in Chelmsley Wood. 12 of the blocks form what's known as the Chelmsley Group, and these two on the edge of the town centre are part of that collection. These are Chestnut House and Dillington House, which have 10 stories each. They were both built in 1968, predating the town centre. Not all of the blocks in the Chelmsley Group were built to the same specifications. Unlike the ones we met yesterday in Fordbridge, they had slight differences. Trevelyan House and Richmond House off Marlene Croft were built in 1967 using the Bison system, and they both have 11 stories. Warwick Court and Chester Court off Dunster Road were again built in 1967 using the Bison system, but they only have 10 stories. Downing House off Willow Way and Darwin House off Alder Drive both have just 9 stories, despite being built in the same year and with the same system. Fircroft House, Avencroft House and Kingsgate House off Winchester Drive were built in 1968 by Wimpey, and they have 11 stories each. The tallest of the 12 is Woodbrook House off Hedgetree Croft. That was built in 1968 using the Bison system, and it has 13 stories. Ultimately though, high-rise flats were a relatively cheap and easy way to provide a lot of dwellings for a lot of people in a relatively small area. Flats would not account for them all though. Let's wander on, deeper into the housing estate to get a feel for the rest of the area, and we'll reconvene in a moment outside of school. Okay, into the residential areas we go. We're on Willow Way. This will take us towards another tower block you can see there. I don't know what the name of that one is offhand. We're just going to pass by that one anyway, we're not going to say much about it. And then we're going to head towards a school and then through the southern part of Chelmsley Wood Estate and take us down towards the Onward Club, which is where the parish council's based. This is Coleshill Heath School, and it was until March of this year the main school in Chelmsley Wood. That's no longer the case. This is now closed, and the main school today is Bishop Wilson School, which has occupied its current site on Craig Croft since 2013. If nothing else, this former school is something a little different from what you're about to see. We're now going to cross Chelmsley Wood to the east, and it's all going to look a bit samey. Chelmsley Wood was designed as another overspill town for Birmingham, not so much for those who needed housing after the war, but more to provide homes for those on the council's waiting list. Even so, the war indirectly had an effect on the creation of Chelmsley Wood. During it, some 12,391 homes had been destroyed by aerial bombing in Birmingham. There was to be no house building in the city for 6 years, so the programme of slum clearance had been halted. As we know from Kingshurst, by the 1950s there was a terrific demand for homes. Although large estates were built within the city boundaries, space soon ran out. By 1963, there was no further land available within the city, but Birmingham had the power under the Working Classes Act of 1900 to purchase land out of area. Kingshurst arrived on the scene in the mid-1950s, but there was still a housing shortage. In February 1965, the proposal for another large new development to the east of the city was put forward. However, this was greenbelt land, and so it wasn't easy, as you might think, to build. Permission had to be sought from both the Minister of Housing at the time and from the local government. Of course, objections were raised about the scheme, particularly from Meriden Rural District Council and the local parish councils. Even Kingshurst, as young as it was, didn't like the idea. They saw Chelmsley Wood as a threat to their amenities and as a threat to the remaining greenbelt land that separated Birmingham from Coventry. Chelmsley Wood was one of 2 sites proposed by Birmingham. There was a similar application for the use of nearly 300 acres at Withell, but that was rejected. Chelmsley Wood was accepted. It took 5 years to build the 15,500 homes in Chelmsley Wood. The land was compulsory purchased in 1965, and by 1970 it was all complete. So if there is one thing that Chelmsley Wood definitely lacks, it's a decent pub, isn't it? I saw some articles online about how many of Chelmsley Wood's pubs have gone to the wall. There's not that many remaining now. There is, though, the Onward Club, which is this building here on the corner of this road right here. Let's check this out. In terms of management and the day-to-day running of affairs on the estate, Chelmsley Wood is overseen by a town council, and they're based at the Onward Club on Helmswood Drive. This is a vibrant and inclusive social hub which has always had a family-friendly atmosphere and top-notch facilities, making it the ideal choice for things like celebrations. Its spacious function room can comfortably accommodate up to 150 guests and has a range of amenities designed to cater for any family. It hosts a variety of events throughout the year, bringing the community together in a warm and welcoming environment. It has seasonal festivals and live music nights, for example. Sports enthusiasts can also enjoy its squash courts and its bowling green, as well as the football pitches which sit behind the building. In recent times, this has also become a valuable hub for vulnerable people on the estate during desperate times. It's also a warm, safe space for anyone and everyone. With the decline in manufacturing industries in the area and difficulties in developing the skills required to access new jobs, unemployment levels on the estate were high. As a result, the area has suffered from physical, social and economic deprivation, and it still does to this day, even though it's nowhere near as bad as it once was. For decades, the town had a negative reputation thanks to antisocial behaviour and crime, despite the fact it's generally been far more successful than other similar council estates in England. Well, I'll tell you what, it hasn't got many pubs, but they are definitely well used. I've got good evidence for that. I'm approaching another one here, which is called the Greenwood, and there's plenty of people outside, and who can blame them? It's a nice evening and the sun is still up. Who wouldn't like a pint outside the pub right now? There we go, check them all out. As we learned earlier, pubs weren't important to the builders in the early days. Some came along later though, and here we have one such example. This is the Greenwood. Chelmsley Wood is actually 6 housing estates which have all merged together over the course of half a century. The initial phase of building saw 15,590 dwellings constructed. Although a council estate, Chelmsley Wood was made up to 80% public housing and 18% privately developed homes. There were to be houses reserved for 100 policemen and rows of terraced homes to be let out or sold at a reduced rate to key workers like nurses, social workers and teachers. Most housing was laid out in a Radburn style, with houses opening out onto pedestrian pathways and backing onto purpose-built courtyards for vehicular access. To enhance the openness, there were no fences between the gardens and the public open space. It was to be one of the most open-plan developments ever built. The designers of Chelmsley Wood paid attention to the site of buildings across the estates in relation to the prevailing winds. This was to ensure a tunnelling effect wasn't created. It couldn't be completely avoided though, despite their best efforts. Landscaping was to act as a transition between the roads and the buildings, in some cases to relieve the hardness of the latter and in others to add to the visual pleasure of the area. Buildings were designed to evoke some sense of unity and harmony by obtaining good proportions and a simple use of materials. The high-rise flats were all developed with pockets of open space around them. Chelmsley Wood won awards for its design, but it did have one drawback: the simplicity of it all. The unity and harmony of the design made it appear rather monotonous. A uniform system of development evolved, and although it served a purpose, it lacked character, identity, and diversity. While we've been walking that section from the Greenwood, we've crossed Chester Road and we've arrived at the Bluebell recreation ground to the east a bit. This is on Bluebell Drive, and the name Bluebell is significant. Although only a name, it preserves part of the area's ancient history. It all sits on the site of an ancient woodland called, surprisingly enough, Chelmsley Wood, which in turn was once part of the Forest of Arden. It was a bluebell wood, and it can still be fondly remembered by many of the older locals who were here long before the council estates ever were. This sports ground has a modest collection of facilities, including a playground and football pitches. Sports-wise, Chelmsley Wood is represented by a football team called Chelmsley Town. They compete in the Midland League, but their ground is outside the parish boundaries. They play at Pack Meadow in Coleshill. You know, a couple of episodes in Kingshurst, I said that it's meant to be raining at this sort of time. So says the forecast. There's a bit of cloud, but no rain has materialised. It stayed dry for this entire walk. I'm going to make it to the end and not have to deal with any rain. Although, quite frankly, right now, I wish it would rain because I'm so hot. But, you know, we push on. This is what I do. More housing for you now as we head towards a pair of schools, and then we have one final area to cover right here in Chelmsley Wood. We're now in Chelmans Cross and we have a handful of landmarks left. This here is Windy Arbour Primary School, and it's not far away from the newest school in Chelmsley Wood, Bishop Wilson. Actually, that's sort of wrong, because Bishop Wilson School has been around for decades. It's just its current building that's new. Bishop Wilson School used to be located off Pike Drive, close to where we started this episode at Meriden Park. Its former site is now occupied by 147 brand new homes. It was founded in 1970 and served the local area for many years. The school underwent a significant transformation though, with the opening of its new, state-of-the-art building in 2013. This was done as part of the North Solihull Partnership's regeneration project, and the new school was funded by Solihull Council and the Birmingham C of E Diocese. It provides education for 3 to 11-year-olds and also serves as a community hub, with St Andrew's Church, which also moved from Pike Drive, being part of the building. You know that Arctic Monkeys song, When the Sun Goes Down? The lyrics say, they say it changes when the sun goes down around here. Well, that's in relation to Sheffield. I think it's true around here as well, because now this sun is starting to set, things are very different around here. There's less traffic, it's a lot more peaceful, everything seems just dead basically. But it's still nice, you know, it doesn't turn into an absolute dive when the sun goes down around here, absolutely not. It just becomes a different place with a different vibe to it, and I quite like it. Just south of the school there are a couple of other new buildings. This here is a medical centre, and over the road is the Chelmsley Court Care Home. Occupying the corner with them is a much older building, the Three Trees Community Centre. This has quite a storied past. It was originally established as a Baptist church in the late 1960s when the estate was constructed. It was later renamed and renovated to become a community hub. The centre has a long history of serving the community, including running a nursery and a coffee bar, and it was also the area's first shop. It gained the Three Trees name as part of a major upgrade and refurbishment. It still serves as a vibrant community hub, offering a wide range of programmes, groups and events for local residents. Speaking of the locals, loads of notable people come from Chelmsley Wood. The one that stuck out to me the most was a footballer, the former Watford captain Troy Deeney. Lindsay Hanley, the writer and academic, also comes from Chelmsley Wood. Hanley is the author of the work Estates, An Intimate History and Respectable, Crossing the Class Divide. A frequent theme of Hanley's work is social mobility, often based on her own journey from a working class background to attending university and becoming a writer. The celebrity chef Glyn Purnell is also from Chelmsley Wood. He's often known as the Yummy Brummy. One of 4 children, when he was young he used to cook for his younger brother and sister, feeding them beans on toast with curry powder and chopped onions. Classic council estate food. And Pele Reid, the now retired British heavyweight boxer, is also a former resident of the Wood. He still lives in Birmingham, where he's a personal trainer. His boxing career saw him land the WBO Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, among some other lesser titles. Well, that's your lot, folks. I've made it all the way around this mega walk. I'm currently standing in a bus stop because instead of walking back to Castle Bromwich, which would be a really daft thing to do, I'm going to catch the bus. And this will take me 40 minutes back up to Castle Bromwich. It'll drop me right where I parked the car on Heathland Avenue. It's along in 6 minutes time. So yeah, what a walk. What an amazing journey. We have snaked our way around Chelmsley Wood, and yes, I know we haven't seen all of it. That's perhaps one thing that helps about it being monotonous, you haven't missed much. With this one in the bag, all I had left to do was to make my way back to Castle Bromwich, where this huge walk, the longest I've ever done, began. Now to do that, I took advantage of the fact that since the 1960s and 70s, bus services out here have increased dramatically. You can catch the X12 on Chelmsley Road, and that will take you into Solihull should you wish to travel in that direction. I needed to go the other way, and handily the X12 stops at Heathland Avenue close to Castle Bromwich Hall. It was time to spend 24 well-earned minutes on my backside after 8 hours of walking. And that's it, folks. The first 5 in Solihull are done. We still have 11 more, and thankfully they won't be as urbanised as this lot. Join me out here again very soon to explore more of the West Midlands. It's been a great start to a great county, even though the locals will still tell you this is all Warwickshire.
Next stop, Heathland Avenue.
Now Now, just before I go, remember, this video is part of a huge project to visit every civil parish in England. That's more than 10,000. These routes are pre-planned, and due to time constraints, I can't cover every detail or walk down every street. Please don't complain if this video missed something out. I pronounce names how I choose to. I am very aware that local dialect may vary, and I don't take kindly to criticism about this. You've been warned. It's impossible to know everything too. If this video was terrible, make your own. If you're a regular watcher of The Village Idiot, you're not the only one. If you've got a small business, why not use my videos to advertise it? Leave a comment below if you're interested. And finally, thanks for watching this episode, everybody. Give us a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed this episode, and share it with your friends and relatives. It all helps to keep this mission going. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as The Village Idiot, and I'm out.